We've been checking out the brand new Fujifilm X-T4, which is so exciting because I loved the X-T3. Spoiler alert, I love the X-T4 as well. It's great for stills, it's great for video, it's such a perfect hybrid camera. You know, really excels at both types of kind of content creation, which I really like. We're gonna dive into loads of stuff. There's loads of stuff brought over from the X-H1, there's loads of stuff brought over from the X-T3, loads of new stuff, improvements. We're gonna get into it. Let's start talking about it. I've been shooting with it for the last couple of days. It has been extremely rainy and windy and horrible, but I think we got there in the end. So let's talk about it. Let's get into what makes the X-T4 so special. So this camera is definitely a hybrid system. And while some of the image specs, you know, things like the sensor, the processor are the same as in the X-T3, there is actually a lot added into this camera. But let's start off by talking about video, which is where I think some of the biggest improvements are. So in terms of specs, this thing's got a lot going for it. So you can obviously shoot 4K, that's up to 60 frames a second. Full HD, you can do up to 240 frames a second, which is huge. That's super slow motion. That's 10 times slow motion if your end result is 24 frames a second. So that's really impressive in such a small camera. But the biggest thing for me is the image stabilization when it comes to video. Now, you've got 6 stops of image stabilization in the camera. That's in-body image stabilization. 6.5 stops if you're using one of the lenses with OIS, like this one. This is the 18-55. And that makes handheld video shooting an absolute breeze. It is incredible. In fact, let me show you something that I shot entirely handheld. That is actually one of the biggest things for me about this camera, is that handheld video capability with the IS. It's incredible. Obviously you can use the in-body image stabilization, but on top of that, you can add digital stabilization as well in the camera, just to add that on to kind of boost it when you're doing video, when you're doing handheld video. And that means this is a perfect run and gun camera. But it's not just kind of a run and gun, cool handheld camera. The 4K is up to 400 megabits a second. And you can also do that at 10-bit 420, that's internal, or 422 external. So you've got nice quality 4K footage there, and that's up to 60 frames a second. Now, there's a little bit of a crop at 60 frames a second. There's a little bit of a crop doing full HD at 240 frames a second. It works out about 1.29 times crop. So nothing major, nothing to really worry about at all. I don't mind that at all. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. It's actually really kind of, you would expect it, I'd imagine, from that kind of frame rate and that kind of quality and stuff like that, so not a problem. Something else I think videographers are gonna really like is the fact that you've actually got a dial here to switch between stills and movie mode, and you've got separate menus for each one. So you actually have to go into the movie mode to access the movie menus, and when you set all your settings, if you then go back to start taking pictures and change settings for stills, when you go back to movie, the settings are all going to be the same. Something that I noticed as well, which I thought was really nice, just a really nice touch. When you are in the movie mode, so you're going to be taking video, you're going to be shooting video, when you adjust the shutter speed, there's some extra little options in there. For example, 1/48th of a second, you know, or little bits like that, little tiny increments, which basically just mean you can get a perfect 180-degree shutter. So if you are a videographer, that is just a nice touch to be able to get the exact frame rate and shutter speed balance that you want, as opposed to what we would normally do. If we're shooting 24 frames a second, probably put it at 1/50th of a second. You know, it's not ideal, but it just about is pretty much there. But having the ability to go to 1/48th of a second, amazing, really, really nice touch. On top of that, the camera is also able to shoot in F-Log, which is Fujifilm's kind of log profile. Personally, I think it looks really good. I find it really easy to color grade, which is nice. Shooting in 4K 10-bit in F-Log, that is a nice way to be shooting video. You know, that is going to give you a lot of options for when you come to color grade, and of course it's giving you that better dynamic range as well. I really appreciate that. Now, in terms of autofocus, there's a new AF algorithm, and this is actually the fastest AF for any APS-C camera. There's an overall improvement to the autofocus. It's faster, it's more accurate with improved tracking and improved face and eye detection. And the AF can now focus down to -6 EV for low light shots. Now, in terms of image quality, we've still got the 26.1 megapixel sensor in the camera that we're used to. I thought that was really good in the X-T3. The image quality is great. The low light performance is great. You know, images look lovely on Fujifilms as well because we're so used to those Fujifilm colors, the color science of Fujifilm. Oh, it's just so nice. Now, unfortunately, I've pretty much only had grey, overcast, rainy, horrible days to work with, but taking some photos of things in the house and things like that, oh, the colors are so nice. Of course, you've got the film simulations to play with as well, so there's things like Across, which is one of my favorites. I just love that kind of black and white look. Of course, you've got things like classic Neg, which I think looks great. I think that was a really nice looking film simulation mode. There's also a new film simulation mode, the Eterna Bleach Bypass, which gives you a kind of low saturation, high contrast look. This is perfect for video. It's probably going to be used more in video. It's actually the name of a film processing process that the movie industry used to use. And it gives you that kind of look you might see in films like Saving Private Ryan. So you've got 6 stops of image stabilization in the camera. You've got 6.5 stops if you use one of the lenses with OIS, like this one. This is the 18 to 55mm. But that is incredible. And I've got to say, it works super well. But you might be thinking, okay, but what does that really mean? What can I do with that much image stabilization? Well, there's a few things. If you're a video shooter, it's going to make handheld shooting super easy, super nice. I shot loads of video handheld. It means you can run and gun, whether you're shooting 4K, whether you're shooting slow motion. It's just a nice way to be. Of course, if you're not a video shooter, it's actually going to really help you with lower light situations. You can use much slower shutter speeds than you would normally go for because you're not going to be getting that camera shake. You're going to be able to get nice, slow shutter speeds, but nice, sharp pictures. So I've taken a few pictures out and about when it was a little bit darker, not such great light, and they look sharp. They look absolutely great. I'm really happy with how the image stabilization works. I've got to say, it does seem to work very accurately and very well. It's a more accurate system than you'd find in the X-H1. It's also a little bit smaller as well, keeping the camera nice and compact and not too massive. So let's talk a little bit about the design, the feel of this camera. Now, the biggest improvement, of course, is probably going to be the vari-angle screen, which means I can flip the screen now, I can turn it to face the camera, I can turn it to face me. I can flip it pretty much however I want, which is great. I always think every camera would benefit from this. Any camera that has a flip down screen, flip up, I just always think, oh, I wish it flipped out. I wish I could turn it, you know, however I want. It makes shooting from below, shooting from above, shooting from the side so much easier. So that's a really nice addition. The screen itself looks great as well. It's nice and high res, nice and bright. Similarly with the viewfinder, nice and high res, nice and bright as well. It just looks great. Now, control-wise on the back, you've still got the D-pad, so you've got those buttons there, which is great because it means that it's a little bit of extra kind of control when you're actually shooting. I found that really easy. So for example, the left D-pad button by default is set to change between the film simulations. So if you want to change them just easily, very quickly, that's really easy to get to. Similarly with some of the others, you can talk about white balance and things like that. I just thought that was a nice way of doing things. Then you've also got the joystick if you don't want to use the D-pad for control in the menus and things like that, which is nice. I prefer to use the joystick, so it's nice to have that there as well. But another big thing on the camera that has changed is there's now a switch between stills and movie. So you've actually got separate menus for each one. So when you're shooting stills, you can have various settings set up. When you switch over to movie, you can change all those settings so they're relevant for your video shooting. Changing back, you're now back into the settings you had for your stills. So you're not carrying those settings over between shooting stills and shooting movie where you'd often use different types of settings. I think that's a really big thing. I think this camera is going to be a great kind of hybrid camera for video and for stills. So someone like myself, for example, I might go out and take loads of photos, but I might also shoot loads of video while I'm out. And it's nice to have that functionality that I can just switch back and forth seamlessly like that. It's a nice way of working. It also means the menus are not too cluttered because they're just focusing on stills or they're just focusing on video. Otherwise, the camera itself is pretty similar to the X-T3, to be honest. It feels very nice, you know, you've still got that nice grip. It's still a decent size. It's a tiny bit bigger, which I think is to house the in-body image stabilization and things like that. But otherwise, it feels great. All the X-T cameras, if you're familiar with them, they just feel nice. And this is absolutely no exception. All in all, this is a fantastic camera. I think this is a great upgrade from the X-T3. You know, it's brought across loads of the stuff that we liked from the X-T3, and then loads of the stuff that we liked from the X-H1, fused it together into this really fantastic package that's great for photographers and for videographers. There's nothing I don't really like about this camera. It was really fun to shoot with, fantastic for video, fantastic for images. I just really like it. It's not massive. You know, you can pop a grip on there if you want to as well to make it a little bit bigger, if you want to have a bigger kind of sturdy system. I think the weight is nice. I just like it. I just like it a lot. Now, if you do have any questions about the camera at all, pop it down in the comments and I'll get back to you ASAP. If you have any thoughts about the camera, any thoughts about anything at all, pop it down there as well. Love to hear your thoughts about the new X-T4. Of course, don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Like because, you know, it's nice to be nice, isn't it? But subscribe because we've got loads of stuff all the time. I will, of course, see you in the next video. And as always, thanks for watching.